What's up, football fans? Welcome into NFL Daily by Chat Sports. My name is Trace Mustakis. You can call me Moose. Now, on today's episode, the latest and juiciest trade rumors in the NFL surrounding some big names, but most importantly, this guy right here, Mr. Tyreek Hill, who has sparked major trade speculation in some recent tweets that he has put out. And then coming up, a Joe Milton trade that is basically as good as done. We're going to explore that as well coming up here on the show. I cannot tell you how excited I am. I had a nice long weekend, got some wedding stuff figured out, and I am back ready to deliver all of the latest and juiciest surrounding your favorite players here in the NFL. Now, before we get started, I got to say thank you to everybody. We just crossed 404,000 subscribers here on the channel, and we need to a bunch, 947, to get up to 405,000. But again, thank you so much for subscribing. Make sure to lock us in for everything surrounding your favorite sports teams and players. So let's start with the first tweet that we saw. This is basically Tyreek Hill's peace out to the entire world. This is what he put out on his Twitter, which is just a peace sign that he put out. And a lot of people were speculating, well, what does this mean? Does that mean he's out of Miami? Does that mean it's just peace and love? Well, there was another, account that came out and basically said this. It's NFL Rumors that said Tyreek Hill reportedly would be okay if the Dolphins traded him to a playoff contender. And then Tyreek jumped on again and said, LOL. Another false narrative talking about that particular tweet. So he retweeted this, and now everybody's saying, well, does that mean he's not done in Miami? Is he done in Miami? And look, I think it means one thing. It's abundantly clear Tyreek has played his final game in a Dolphins uniform. He has said it multiple times over. He is done in Miami. And that's okay. I mean, it would be better if everybody was all on the same page and he wasn't doing all this, cryptic tweeting about, when he's going to be leaving or what team he would want to go play for. But it's clear to me that he is done with the Dolphins. And I don't know if you want to call it for good reason. I mean, take a look at his last year. It was okay, right? Like 81 receptions, 959 yards, 6 touchdowns. He still has some explosive plays, so he had 13 20-plus yard receptions. But we saw the fall off last year, and not necessarily his fault. Tua was injured for a majority of last season, and he just wasn't the same player. But let's be clear. He's not happy in Miami anymore. And there are other teams in the NFL that could use his services with either A, a younger, cheaper quarterback and one who's not injury-prone, or B, a team that needs a dynamic outside threat to take them over the edge. And his last 4 seasons, you can see, he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, back-to-back 1,700-yard reception years is nothing short of spectacular. Hall of Fame numbers from Tyreek Hill. And if the Dolphins were to decide to move on from him, they can save a boatload of money. $14.97 million, so let's round it up because it's basically pennies on the dollar. $15 million if they decide to trade him post June 1st. So it's not going to happen anytime soon if it does happen, but we should be noticing that it's most likely coming, especially after what we see the Dolphins do in the 2025 NFL Draft. So what are some teams that could potentially vie for Mr. Tyreek Hill's trade services? Well, the Arizona Cardinals being one of those. The Vegas Raiders, they need someone on the outside. The 49ers basically got rid of everybody, so they could always use some extra help. And the Dallas Cowboys, across from CeeDee Lamb. Could you imagine a CeeDee Lamb and Tyreek Hill duo? That is one of the nastiest in NFL history. But, of course, this is all speculation, so I'm going to ask you this question. Where will Tyreek Hill play in 2025? If I had to put my money on it right now and pencil this in, I'll go with the Arizona Cardinals. I think they could absolutely use a player like Tyreek Hill, plus they're top 5 in cap space, so they have the money to do so. And Tyreek Hill, to me, doesn't necessarily need to go to a playoff contender. I think he's going to go where the money's right and where they need him. And the truth is, the Cardinals have both of those. So I'm going to pencil in the Arizona Cardinals, but let's hear from you as well. Where will Tyreek Hill play in 2025? Now, our next juicy trade rumor, Joe Milton being as good as gone. Now, I did talk a little bit about Joe Milton in the last video that I did here on the channel, and that video, it was kind of like gaining traction that he might be traded, but apparently, according to some big-time radio personalities in New England, he's 100% gone. In fact, here's what Scott Zolak and Mark Bertrand, who are these two radio personalities for 98.5, which is one of their biggest stations up there in New England, said about Joe Milton. He's going to get moved prior to the draft 100%. They're trying right now. Oh, well, there's another news nugget. So this was kind of a back and forth between the two of them. And they basically said, look, the Patriots are exploring a trade for Joe Milton as we speak. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of what they're going to get from Joe Milton. And as we talked about Milton in our last video, he has some very awesome characteristics and traits that a bunch of NFL franchises are salivating over. Now, they're apparently looking for a third-round pick for Milton, and I'm going to kind of pump the brakes on that. They drafted him in the 6th. So to get a third, you're basically saying his upside is so spectacular, we want a third-round pick for him. I think that's kind of a reach. Call me crazy, but I think you're probably looking at a 4th or a 5th for him, just based off of his upside alone, and I think there's a team that would absolutely make that. But a third-round pick, to me, it's just not necessarily, kind of worth it. But there is one team that is reportedly all in on Joe Milton and has emerged as the top landing spot for a trade to happen if it were to go down. Now, before I get to that team, I want to give a major shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the sponsor of today's video, and it is the place to get real money sports action using this awesome app. Let me tell you a little bit about our friends over at Prize Picks. Springtime is definitely here and baseball season is officially underway. Do not miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash today. It is the best place to get real money sports action. Join 10 million members and sign up today. On PrizePicks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports, combine your favorite baseball players, basketball players, hockey, etc., and much more. And here's the cool thing. When you download the app and use code CLNS, you're going to get up to $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today, use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Join over 10 million members and sign up, like I said, with that code CLNS over at PrizePicks. Run your game. Okay, so New Orleans is the team right now that has kind of emerged as the top landing spot for Joe Milton. And they're so interested right now on a player that has these traits kind of like Cam Newton. And let's talk a little bit about his strengths as we kind of alluded to in last video. He's got that massive arm. 6'5", 235 pounds. Not as mobile as a guy like Cam Newton, but arguably a better raw passer straight out of the draft. Everyone was talking about Newton's ability to kind of make things happen on the run. And as he got further along in his career, his passing ability was on full display in Carolina. But he was a very productive player. I'm talking about Milton now. Back in Tennessee, his last season, had 32 total touchdowns, and he can make plays, like I said, outside of the pocket with that massive arm. It's just a quick little flick of the wrist, and that ball is sailing downfield. However, with every strength comes a weakness. He's got very little touch. He lacks timing on his throws. He looks for the deep ball far too often. And with that being said, all of those things lead to accuracy issues. And what's the one thing in 2025 that you have to be as a quarterback? It's like a prerequisite. You've got to be accurate. This is no longer 1995 football where you can complete 50% of your passes and have a starting franchise job. But Mike Vrabel, the new head coach of the New England Patriots, had this to say about Milton. He was very, very high on his praise and said, I think Joe did everything they asked him to do last year. He worked extremely hard, and that's tough when you're a quarterback. Everybody wants to play, and he was ready for his opportunity there late in the season, which I commended him on. Now, he only appeared in one of those games, and everybody wants to play, said Vrabel. Everybody wants to be the starter. Where that leads to, we'll see as the draft approaches, where Joe is on April 7th and our offseason workout program. To me, this kind of sounds like he's talking about somebody he's reminiscing about, doesn't it? Doesn't it kind of sound like he's looking in the rearview mirror when it comes to Milton? So that leads me even more to believe that a Milton trade is on the way. Now, again, I'm not a prognosticator. I don't have a crystal ball, but I can give you my opinion as I see new information come out. And I do think that a Joe Milton trade will happen prior to the NFL draft. It's just going to be a matter of what the Patriots can get out of him. So let me ask you this. Will Milton play for the Saints in 2025? The Saints came as that lead team. They seem to have some very high interest. Kellen Moore now as the head coach. Derek Carr, not their long season or long-term plan. So let me ask you this. Will he play for the Saints? Give me a Y for yes. Give me an N for no. Our last little trade nugget that I wanted to kind of get to is this Will Levis one. And I kind of threw this in more for comedy purposes because to me, this is just kind of a non-story, but it was kind of made a story. So one of the Chad Brinker is the president of football operations for the Tennessee Titans. And here's what he had to say about Will Levis when someone asked him, I think it was a reporter that asked him if there was a trade incoming for Will Levis. He says, we have not contacted anybody, and nobody has contacted us about Will Levis. I don't think anything has changed from the time somebody asked me about that a month ago. What's the plan with Will Levis? The plan with Will Levis is he has a chance to compete for a starting job next year, and that's like every other player that's on our roster. Okay, look, let's be very, very clear about this. Nobody's contacted you about Will Levis because nobody wants Will Levis. That's the truth. When you have a player that continually makes boneheaded plays like these, nobody wants a quarterback like that to start for their team. Now, I'm not saying there's not going to be a trade market for Will Levis as a backup. You could get a 7th-round pick for Will Levis, and honestly, he should remain in Tennessee and kind of sit back and be the team's backup. As a backup, he can win games. There's no doubt. But as a starting quarterback, I think we saw last year that it went from high expectations to holy crap, get this guy out of the building. Now, I don't think anybody should be that drastic about it in Tennessee. I think he needs another season to sit behind, whoever they take, Cam Ward, and just be the team's backup. Maybe if Cam Ward's not ready to start week 1, which I highly doubt, Levis could be your starter week 1. But again, I don't see it happening. So I'm going to ask you this kind of fun question, I'll call it. Will Levis be the starter week 1 for the Tennessee Titans? If you think so, type W for Will. If you think other, type O. And I could put Cam Ward down there, but again, he hasn't been selected yet by the Tennessee Titans, although I think we all think it's coming. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's episode. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a friend. We are still trying to grow this channel as much as we can and get to as many subscribers before the NFL draft as possible. My name is Moose. Until next time, be cool.